Hi, I'm Edie. I'm a comic artist and illustrator based in the north of England at the moment.
So, can you tell us a little bit how you got started in comics?
I thought it was quite a funny story actually. When I was at uni, I was studying illustration, and my lecturer, well, who was sort of coaching us for our dissertation, he was really into comics, and he said, "Oh, we want some students to submit for Comic Ed. You should do something." And I was like, I've never made comics before, I can't tell stories, I don't know what to do. And he was just like, well, you always come into my office, you storm in, you've got food, and you just start telling me these weird stories about your life that I've not asked you to tell me. Why don't you just write down one of those? And I was like, oh, I didn't think they were that weird. And he asked a couple other people in the room, and they were like, yeah, they're not really normal stories. So I just basically, that's where my first comic, 7 Blows to the Head, came from, which is about, I've been hit around the head like 7 times in my life, like quite seriously. Only like hospital serious once, but yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And then from there, sort of just decided I wanted to try and make some comics for my major project at uni, and then kind of just kept going from there. Really, never stopped.
Never stopped?
No.
What type of, who do you think has been one of your greatest influences in terms of artists that have, in a way, informed your work?
Oh, that's really tricky actually. I think because my background's illustration, I was inspired a lot by a lot of children's illustrators, like children's books ones, so like, you know, the kind of really tactile type, creating imagery like that. So I can't remember the name of the author, but the person who did the fish with the magic scale, and Elmer as well, and a lot of Maurice Sendak as well. I really love Where the Wild Things Are, and sort of that kind of dark fantasy kind of thing.
Yeah, that's very nice. And so what would you think, what would you say one of your main themes, is when you're actually creating?
Horror, I think, but not like scary horror, just because it probably would be, but like my work, just no matter how scary I try and make it look, it never looks scary. It kind of always looks like a little bit silly and a little bit kind of almost cutesy, but a lot of the stories that sort of come out as sort of horror, I've written a few of them and not illustrated them, and they're like terrifying when you look at them right down. I'm like, oh, this is horrible, I can't believe this has come from my head. But when you draw them, I'm like, oh, it's nice now. And yeah, so I'd say probably mainly horror.
All right, well, thank you very much for taking the time to talking to us today.
Yeah, no problem, thanks for having me.